Today I will discuss how carbohydrates and fats create energy and fats create energy in the cell, the role of mitochondria in it, and how to leverage this information and apply it if you want to lean out, get healthier, and optimize your energy production. Understanding this information is going to be not only useful for people who want to burn off excess fat. Yes, not saying lose weight is the hill I'm willing to die on, but anyone who is struggling with chronic health issues. Resetting your metabolic processes as intended by nature is the basis of health and longevity. Because when you maximize energy production in your cells, you give them the essential resource that they need to carry out their functions in the best manner possible, including getting rid of damaged parts and making brand new parts of the cell. And mitochondria are some very important elements among those, and I will tell you why. So let's talk about ATP, the energy currency of the cell. If your body was a country's economy and your ATP would be the money, ATP is the energy currency of your body. More energy means more health. So we want to look for ways to maximize energy production, maximize ATP. The most readily available source of fuel is glucose, which your body can make from carbohydrate and from protein when needed. When we've had enough food to satisfy our immediate need for energy, the rest is then stored as glycogen in the liver and in the muscles. And when your body needs glucose, it will just either use the food, carbs or protein, or can take it from the stores, or even make some from protein. And if you are, for example, on a low-carb diet. And why I'm telling you this is to understand that glucose is a great source of energy. It produces ATP quickly, but it cannot make a lot of ATP, and more on this later. So where's the ATP energy molecules produced? In the mitochondria. You consist of trillions of cells. Each of those cells, except red blood cells, have hundreds to thousands of mitochondria. The colonies of mitochondria populate different organs in different quantities, and they look different as well, depending on the tissue where they're located. And so, these small organelles, mitochondria, produce ATP. And how they do it is they take food broken down by the TCA cycle. It's another process in the cell. And TCA cycle breaks your food down into hydrogen and electrons. And it puts them into this conveyor belt called electron transport chain. And there are many of them in each mitochondria. Electron transport chains is where ATP is produced. Oxygen sitting at the end of the conveyor belt of the electron transport chain pulls magnetically the negatively charged electrons through the ETC, and with the pressure of positively charged hydrogen ions, ATP is created by a spinning nanomotor with 100% efficiency. This could only be created by Mother Nature, by the way. We humans have not yet been able to create a 100% efficient engine. However, if there's not enough oxygen, for example, you're working out at an intense level, or another example is a blockage of an artery, there will be a buildup of lactic acid. It increases acidity in the cell, and that's why you have a burning sensation and pain when you work out hard enough. So while glucose converts to ATP quickly, it's not the most efficient source of fuel. Also remember, there's not much ATP produced from glucose, but fat is efficient and produces 4 times more ATP. Fatty acids are metabolized in a process called beta-oxidation, and you don't have to remember this. This is this burning of fatty acids that's responsible for 60 to 70% of all of the energy our mitochondria create. The net result is that each molecule of glucose forms a total of 38 ATP molecules, 2 from glycolysis, 36 from TCA cycle, so 38 in total. But each molecule of a 16-carbon fatty acid called palmitate produces 129 ATP molecules, so 4 times more. And it's no wonder that healthy, well-functioning cells prefer fatty acids as their source of fuel. And here's where I like to bring up the campfire analogy. And you can see pictures and graphs on this blog post that I mentioned earlier that you can look up on my site or find the link in the show notes. So think of your metabolism as a campfire. The thin twigs and wood chip are how glucose burns, quickly creating a big fire, but also quickly dying out. But if you take olive tree logs and put them in the fire, they will produce sustained fire burning for a long time. So why are people having so much difficulty burning off fat if cells prefer to use fat? So one reason is because most people never actually let their body to tap into their fat stores, because they're always snacking on something that's rich in carbohydrates, so they're always refueling their glucose. But another reason is fat burning or fat acid oxidation requires a well-functioning circadian rhythm. There's a study that I'm going to mention later on. So a well-functioning circadian health is governed by, what do you think? Of course, the sun, the nuclear reactor in the sky. But what has happened in the last 20 years or so is that technology has brought us indoors. If you ever look at the pictures of people on the beach in the 60s or 70s or 80s, you would see a stark contrast to what people on the beach look like today now, in the modern civilized world. So it's not all about just processed foods. So the study looked at mice. Unfortunately, most studies are performed on these poor animals, because what happens is that researchers have to dissect mice's tissue to look inside at the results of their experiments. So this study that I'm talking about found that the genes and enzymes that converge into fatty acid oxidation, so fat burning, they do not work if circadian rhythm is dysfunctional in a mouse. You can see the graph in my blog post showing those genes and enzymes converging, and the circadian clock BML1 gene there as well. So if you see the graph, you will understand what I'm saying here is that just a quick description of the graph. The activation of these genes leads to increased fatty acid transport. Fatty acids are shuttled into mitochondria for oxidation, and enhanced beta-oxidation, which is fat burning. So in both mitochondria and peroxisomes, fatty acids are broken down into acetyl-CoA, which enters the TCA cycle, producing ATP. So you don't have to understand all of it. This is just a quick description of the graph and the study saying that fat burning basically doesn't work if you do not possess a good circadian rhythm. So let's also talk about here carbohydrates and sunlight connection, because carbohydrates products enter the ETC via complex 1, but fats via complex 2. It's important to understand that the complex 1 in the electron transport chain works on something called NADH, which is a UV light absorber. It works at 340 nanometer light, which is ultraviolet light. That's why the carbohydrate you eat should match the photonic energy of the sun where you live. Makes sense from the logical standpoint, correct? So simply put, eating seasonal and local carbohydrate in the sun will do the trick. The photonic information of the electrons coming from those carbohydrates will enter complex 1, which works on UV light and will decode that photonic information. Your local seasonal vegetables and fruit will automatically carry the matching information from the sun at your latitude that they received via something called photosynthesis that you're familiar with. Another important thing to note here is that mitochondrial DNA, the genes that control mitochondria and control your protein production in the body, sits directly next to complex 1 in the electron transport chain. So when complex 1 produces more free radicals than desired, when it's not functioning properly, it damages mitochondrial DNA because it's located so near to it. So in conclusion, I want to say that if you want to reset your metabolism to function efficiently as it's designed to by nature, you need to start eating local seasonal foods and tending to your circadian rhythms. And how do you tend to circadian rhythms? A good place to start is to never miss a sunrise in your life again, and block artificial light at least after sunset.